I'm a little bit out of breath, but I got the transmission out from the basement. This one's good to go. I just checked all the gears. So you basically yaw this left and right, get it in all the gears, then spin the transmission and see if it's actually going in gear and all that. Make sure it's all good. And it honestly looks like this one has a fairly new release bearing, which is pretty sick. So what I'm gonna do is I have to completely remove everything out of this transmission to weld the diff. The last thing in the tranny is a diff. So I need to take that out and then put the axles in it and then weld that diff solid, then reassembly, and then I can actually take my current one out that is broken. If you didn't see that, I broke it drifting on the weekend, which was yesterday actually, but I'm gonna need to take him out and replace it. So got lots of work to do, so I might as well get right into it. There's a bolt at the bottom of the transmission, and that will be the spot to drain all the fluid out. I'm gonna see if there's fluid in here. I don't think there is, to be honest, but yeah, there's definitely not any. So I'm just gonna make sure that I can get every drip out I can, and then I can remove everything from the transmission, the whole case, all the gears, everything. First step is done. I got my top cover off, and now this is showing 5th gear. And as I can easily see, this transmission is in pristine condition. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, that is a clean tranny, and I haven't cleaned anything at all. So I'm pretty stoked about that for sure. So what I've got to do to get 5th gear off, because I have to remove the gears to remove this case, and I also have to do a few more things. I'll tell you that in a second. But for now, I need to pop this pin out. So I need to find something like a drill bit that's that ID, hammer it out. Then I have to hammer out these actual nuts out of that groove so I can actually impact that off. And same with that one. And then I'm gonna remove those two and then take off everything in order. I'm just gonna grab it from the bottom, pull it right off, put it over here. So, and then I know everything's in a row. I know what order they go to, but like, it's much easier if you literally just get it in one spot and you just don't even remove them. So I hammered this guy out, that guy out, and that pin. So I put the pin in my magnet little guy right there. So now what I'm gonna do is impact this off and impact that off, and then everything should come over and onto here. I'm gonna clean here and then have everything in nice order. All right, now it's time for me to rip all the gears out. So what I'm gonna do is just grab with my left hand around this bottom, and as you can see, I can pull it up. And that's gonna bring this fork, which is actually gonna put the transmission in gear with the 5th, or have it in neutral for 5th. So I'm gonna do the same with over here and just pull them both off nice and slow. And there we go. So I'm just gonna grab all these and then put it onto the edge of the table. And there you have it. That is 5th gear with the fork. I've got everything organized. I didn't remove anything. There's multiple pieces, and it's honestly very simple. It's just basically gears, synchronizer. So this is a synchronizer, and then you go further down, and you can see the other bottom. There's another synchronizer, and then the dogs. So I'm just gonna leave it there like that. I know the order, but if you're doing this for the first time, you won't, because you gotta learn. So if you can get it all off without having to disassemble anything, you don't have to. Like, you can just leave it there, do what you got to do, and then change it and put that on the same way as I did when I removed it. I have to get this entire case off. So to get the case off, you would think you would just do all these bolts around the edge and just remove it and you're good to go. That's not the case. There is a bolt holding reverse in place, and then there is another bolt hole that has a spring and ball in it, and that will prevent you from going 5th to reverse. So you got to remove those. So you just get your 12, remove that, 14, remove that, and then get a magnet, get the actual spring and ball out, and then this one is just a bolt that has a taper on the edge, so it actually goes into reverse. But yeah, just remove that and then all these bolts, and then it'll come right off. And I almost forgot, I gotta remove one more bolt out of the side of the case. I remembered before I ripped it off, but as long as it's ripped off before, so you gotta take this one out, it's a 10, and that one is holding a shaft from going up and down. Alright, got the case off. Here's the magnet. You gotta take that out and clean it. Gotta take this little pin out with just one of these Jimmy Bobs. That guy comes right out. You gotta remove him. There's a ball and spring in there. This is the ball that I told you about before. We took the bolt out on top, and that will just sit there, and that is what actually prevents you from putting this is your reverse gear into DIFF, like when you're going back and forth. So I'm gonna put that in there. So basically, to get these two shafts out, this is like your main shaft that goes right to the clutch, and then this is your secondary, and then your actual differential, and this is what I need to get out, and it's the last part in the tranny. So like I said, I removed that, so now this pin will move on the inside right here. So now I can remove that right out, take this guy out, because this will just slide right out, pull it out, then now I'm free, but I have a spring and ball that I have to really pay attention to, because you can't lose it, because that is what holds neutral, first, second, third, fourth, and all that. So that's important. Don't lose that. And right now I'm just gonna remove the reverse gear just to get him out of the way. So literally all I did there was I just pulled up on this shaft, and then she pops right out. Just gonna put her aside, and then I'm gonna remove all this stuff. Flathead screwdriver coming from this side, and then poke the tip. So now it's gonna come out this way, and now you can probably grab the end of it now. Yep. And then out she comes. So now I got the shaft, I'm gonna put it aside, and then I'm gonna remove, this is the actual shifter pivot arm. So I'm making up names here, but yeah, this will just pop off. It's on 2 balls. Nothing comes apart on here. So if you're careful, you're good to go. And now put that aside as well. And then you're at this stupid spring and ball part. While I'm here, I'm just gonna remove the actual magnet. The magnet doesn't look too bad, that's fairly normal. I'm just gonna go with it. So I've got to shove something in this hole so my spring is actually gonna stay compressed, or if I just start taking things apart and once this spring doesn't have pressure on it, my ball is just gonna go shooting across the room. So I'm gonna shove something in there, literally find whatever you got in your toolbox, shove it in there. I don't know, I'm gonna try a screw, we'll see. I forget what I used to use, but. So I got a teeny weeny Allen key in here. I'm just gonna shove them in. Get it in between the two. There we go. So right now I've got the spring. So now I can remove everything, and everything should pull straight up. Sometimes you gotta remove this 10 here just so it's a little easier. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna do that real quick. Just remove this. And then this whole shaft will actually come apart, just like so. Keep that all together. Then he shoves right into here. Leave him for later. And then I'm going to remove all this crap. So this one will pull up, this one will pull up, that one will pull up. And if you're careful, you can get it all in one part together, so you don't have to realign anything here on the shifter, and it's a lot easier to put back together. So that's cool. So while I'm doing this, I gotta make sure that I don't lose that spring and bearing. I'm gonna try and pull everything up and get the diff out. That's really all I need to be doing here. So we'll see how that goes. And now I can get the diff out. Just like so. Sweet, so I got the diff out. It's looking really healthy. Bearings are good and all that. And then same thing over here, all welded in the bottom, all welded in the top. That thing's not going anywhere. So it needs to cool down slow now. So she's obviously real hot. So I'll just carry on with this tomorrow and I'll be able to throw it back into the tranny. I just shoved my axles in just to make sure everything is still square and true. And as you can see, they just slide in real nice and easy. So that's exactly what I wanted. And this thing's ready to go. I just gotta have it cool down. Now what I gotta do is just clean the inside of the tranny a bit just before it gets all reassembled, just to make sure. Preventative, making sure things are all good. Clean off the actual magnet. This magnet picks up metal in the transmission, so I'll clean all that with a rag, brake clean, and then put this thing back together. One of the biggest things is you have to get all the RTV off the case. Like you can see it's still there, so what I do is get a knife and drag it across, get all the goo off. So there's a lot there, as you can see. Get all that out, and then clean out anything you can see with brake clean. You can see a little bit of stuff just down there. Just clear up, make sure you're being precise and pristine. So the bearing actually goes right here. I'm going to label that, and it basically keeps the positioning held whatever gear you have it in, just for comfort and whatever they decided it was for, but it's got to go in. So I've got to get that diff in, get these all lined up, make sure everything's spinning properly, and then I can get that one in, and then it's just put the cases back together and then do fifth gear up here and we're ready to roll. So I got everything back together. Well, not everything, but I've got some stuff back together. Diff is in, it's welded, that's for sure. And it's just truly amazing how much goes on in here. Like, some gears are moving quicker than other gears. It's just such a fascinating setup, that's for sure. And there's one thing I do want to show you in this. Do you see this right here? I'm not going to speak of it because that would literally give me nightmares and I can't sleep at night and that type of thing, and it ruins race days. Yeah, we're going to not talk about these two little guys right here, but I wanted to show you which thing I'm talking about, without saying what it actually is. This is it, and this is the thing I freaking hate. So right here, this is the next piece that goes on. It's part of the shifter, and it needed to be removed to get the reverse out and everything. So I'm gonna install that. So this all comes apart, just slide it out, and it goes into here and around a nipple. You'll see the nipple, and it goes right into this kind of shallowed out spot, and that's what actually helps the reverse go up and down. So then the long part goes down into the shaft and then into the actual housing of the transmission, the case, and then those holes line up. So and then I grab my reverse, swing it in here carefully, and then it will also just pop right down into the tranny case. So right there, everything's installed. You have to be really careful of the orientation of this, because this is the piece that actually gets bolted in through the outside of the transmission once you get the case fully together. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to thread in that little 10 millimeter right here into the shaft right here. And he just tighten her up, snug her up, and then she's good to go for that aspect. That one's not anything too crazy. Low, very low torque for this. We're back to this guy down in here. We got to get the ball bearing inside of that little shaft with the spring compressing it. This can be very difficult. I can usually get it pretty easily, but as a beginner, it's very difficult because to get this shaft away from this little cylinder, you have to bring the shaft up and then out. And then you have to shove it in and then get everything back in place quickly and keep this compressed. So I guess it's just by feel and by experience, but it is very difficult. But I'm gonna shove her in and show you how I do it. I've got it out of the case now, so I'm going to push this guy in there very carefully. So I'm just holding it there with some needle noses, and then I'm gonna try and slide this shaft back into the tranny without losing that bearing. Because if I lose the bearing, just like I did, I gotta take everything back out. Ah, damn it. Damn it. Gotta remove everything now. Round 2, wish me luck. Ho, ho. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, there we go. Almost lost her again. Oh, almost lost her again. Okay, the ball bearing is in there. So now all I gotta do is just kind of get this in place and dropped. Just like so. Nailed it. There we go. That's looking mint. And now I can release the spring pressure because now I want all the spring pressure. So that's awesome. We're well on our way. But wait, there's more. So this is actually what will decide what gear you're in through the inside of the transmission. So the shifter obviously goes out of the transmission as well, but this goes on a ball here, which is this guy, and then there's a ball down there. So that's where there's these 2 pockets. So you gotta get that guy in there, chilling big. Grab the shifter, get into the position you want it to be in, because you kind of gotta fart around with it, and get it straight, because then a shaft goes through here into there. So then this is your pin that goes right through, just like so, all the way through, just like that. And now that's in. It's in position. And then there's also going to be a small pin. And this pin will line up with a hole inside of the case. And then you can just kind of tap him in. He'll almost go flush, but he won't completely go flush. That's fully in. And the other side, this will penetrate into the other side of the case. So now I can shift the transmission and it will shift the transmission inside. So right now I have my hand on the outside of the case. So over here, this is the magnet, and he will just drop right into here where he came out. It's all cleaned up, obviously. And now it's time to do the outside of the case. So all this interior stuff inside of the case is all done. You got to make sure that the gears will spin nice. Every once in a while, just check, make sure things are good. So this is one thing that always gets me, is this shaft will drop and it has to be pulled up and then kind of like held up on the teeth here on that little guy, because if it isn't, it'll just kind of fall. But now it's in place properly. And then there's these 2 tips need to go through the top of the case, and then these go through 2 large holes. Obviously you got to make sure the bearings are on the top. So on the far part of the case, on the bottom, there's a bearing, and then the top case, there's a bearing. So it has to be contained by bearings. So you got to make sure the bearings are still there. You don't want them to fall off or whatever. So now it's time for me to put the case on and make sure everything is working properly. I need to clean the case from the RTV, but then I'm gonna drop it on, make sure everything's correct, try the spinning method, see if everything's working, and then remove it, and if everything's working, then RTV the whole thing, put it together permanently. So here's the shifter mechanism. You can turn that, see if everything's working. Working mint. I had it on and off the top case and it went on perfectly. Everything was spinning nice and freely. it's ready to go. I don't want to move anything. So now I'm going to throw some RTV just along the entire outside of this case. And then I'm going to drop it down and then throw all the bolts in and then snug them all up. Sweet, I got the case on, and like we did before, we have these 2 bolts that go into the side of the tranny, and it's very important to have them all lined up. This goes into the side of a shaft, and this goes into the reverse threads, like we said before. So you got to put the case on, take it off, take it on, off, make sure everything's going to line up. You got to kind of tweak it a little bit, take it off, line it up. But mine are both lined up, and I just gave her a couple shifts. So I can just pull her back, put her in gear, give her a spinny spin, and the diff is spinning, which is sick. And I tried all the gears, reverse, all that. So now it's good to go. It's time to bolt this baby up, throw all the bolts back in, get her back together. And then this is one of the last things, when the case is all on, you just drop the little ball bearing in there, and then you put the spring in. And then all you gotta do is put the bolt in, and you're good to go. Sweet, I got the case on, it's looking good. So now I just gotta put 5th gear on, and then get the final shell over top. So that's looking awesome. Like I said before, we take everything off in order, so I'm just gonna grab everything and drop it on. Throw a pin in, torque everything down, and put the cover on, and we're good to go. So I'm just gonna clean everything up, make sure everything's nice and tidy, because this has to be RTV'd, just like this case was. So I'm just going to go over everything, make sure everything's clean, and then get right to it. So I got everything screwed together. It's not torqued down or anything yet, but as you can see, there's a notch here, and that is where the old keyway was. Same with this one. So what I do is I tighten it until it lines up where it was, and that will give me the exact torque that it was from the factory, since everything is the same. I didn't change one gear, I didn't change one thing, I didn't change the diff. All I did was weld the diff, put everything back together. So that is exactly what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna just do it with a little bit of help from the impact. See, it's very close. Just gotta go a little further. Very close again, just a little further. I'll just give her a little bit more. Actually, that's probably dead nuts. So I'm going to do the same to that one. And then I will be able to hammer that back in and then continue on. But let's do this one as well. Just got to keep getting it closer, closer. A little bit more. A little more. Bam. All right, so now I'm going to hammer it in with a screwdriver. Just get that in there so it can't unscrew itself when under power. I've had that happen before, but not gonna happen this time because I'm gonna do it right. So I got those notches all keywayed and locked in there with the hammer. And now I need to put a little pin into the shaft. This is the shifter. This will engage 5th gear, and it won't do it without this pin. So you just gotta hammer that pin in, and it's very simple. You just line up the holes, you look in there. If it's not lined up, line it up. It's pretty much flush with that, and then just hammer it in. Everything's locked in, pins in there. That's the one I always forget. I'll put the cap on and be like, oh, it's not shifting in 5th gear. And it's because of that pin. Pretty much if you forget something, something's not gonna work right. So it's kind of like anyone can do it. You just gotta follow these instructions. Take your time, be as meticulous as you can, and then test it out. Make sure all the gears work, make sure the diff's working. And the last piece of the puzzle is this cap. And this cap is looking pretty greasy, like McDouble at McDonald's. You don't want to ingest it, that's for sure. So I think I'm just gonna kind of cover the gears for now until I get the tranny out of my car, and then steal this one on there. And it's not as rusty and it's painted and stuff, so ew. Clean tranny inside though. I can't believe the condition of everything in here. I'm super stoked. This is probably the best tranny I've ever actually put into my twin engine MX-3, because normally they don't last long and I just don't even bother. And like, if the synchronizers are like meh, I just run them, because I keep good parts for like cars I drive on the street, because honestly I want them to drive nice if I'm trying to be comfortable. If I'm just banging gears, I'm pulling as hard as I can into the next gear, just beating the literal piss out of it. So I usually don't, but I'm saying I don't usually put the good stuff in here, because I don't know. This is just the hoon car, I guess. But yeah, so it's gonna have a really nice tranny. It does shift really good. It doesn't take much effort at all to shift it, so that's super good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to pull this baby out, rear engine. So that's it for this episode. In the next episode, I will be putting the fresh tranny into the rear engine of my car, and I'm going to be locking it down, getting it ready to roast some tires again. Got to get back out there to Earthville Cartway and really show that track who's boss. And this is the boss. I'm the boss. Let's do this. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Like, comment, and subscribe.